Hi everyone, my name is Jasmine and I teach 4th grade in Indiana.
Hi, I'm Erin and I teach 5th grade in New Jersey.
And I'm Wandiza and I teach 5th grade in New York. We are so excited to be here today in the Scholastic offices.
And to discuss this month's Voices title, Out of Wonder.
Our students really enjoyed reading all of the different poems and finding the ones that they could connect with.
We can't wait to share with you how we use Out of Wonder in our classrooms.
When I used this book with my students, I actually had them do more of a preview to help me for next year with my class for next year, and they really took ownership of it. So they went through each page and wrote down likes and dislikes, and it was so cute because they were telling me which stories they could use for similes and which stories they really enjoyed the imagery on. I believe Snapshots, one of the poems, they loved the imagery in that one. They could feel it, and I think we both had a similar experience with the jazz jive poem.
Yeah.
My students felt they related to it because their parents have to pay for rent.
And so they found the poems being recited online. So they were able to listen to it in the jazz jive poem. One of my students said she really enjoyed it because it sounded like jazz. It sounded slow and it sounded interesting. They really enjoyed that. They also pulled out snapshots as well, and they were able to identify that as metaphors, using metaphors in that poem. So we talked a lot about figurative language in the past month or so, and they really now see the poems, how they use those figurative language or those literary devices, and they say, oh, there's this one, there's a simile. So I think the poems made that learning a little bit more exciting for them.
Yeah, we know, like, as teachers, we're constantly looking for resources, and so this is a great resource because it's a collection. So it has a variety of poems by a variety of authors, and we don't have to look all around, all over the place to try to find a resource that can meet a lot of needs.
One of my students really enjoyed the last poem, which was celebrating Maya Angelou, and they said they really liked that because it inspired them to want to write more poems. And of course, Maya Angelou is really inspiring in her own ways, right? So
I think one of my students, when they read the one poem, was the Emily Dickinson poem about the roses, and they were like, this poem is about love and I don't like love. So, they're still analyzing it, but it's just funny to hear from their mouths what they connect with and what they enjoy. And so I know for me it was such a wonderful experience to have with them because they really had that ownership of looking at these poems and how they felt about it. And they also really loved seeing Black Joy. Like they said, the Langston Hughes tribute poem, they had so much fun and they looked like they were having a great time.
And that was the great part about the book, that it really diversified the poets, their style, the topics that they talked about, and so it gave a platform, I could say, for students to be able to build their own writing from. One of the big things or loves I can say about teaching poetry is that it is meant to be spoken. And so a lot of emphasis sometimes gets put on just the writing, right? The technique, the structure, but then words have power once they're spoken. So to motivate my students to really get engaged with poetry, I decided to create a poetry slam. A full-on poetry slam. And it was just an amazing experience to watch the students become so motivated to really write from their heart. So the criteria was just to pick something that was meaningful to you, something that really impacted you, something that you wanted to change, something that is near and dear to your heart. And these students took those topics and ran with it. They came up and they poured their heart out in the poetry slam, and it was just an amazing experience to witness and to watch and to see it actually take life.
Giving them that voice.
Yes,
That's
Even
it.
to some kids, and we all have these students that are really shy and withdrawn, and a lot of them look to writing as an outlet, as a way to express themselves.
So the back of the book has biographies of all of the poets that were celebrated in the book. So I used that as a bit of a history lesson, and students were able to choose poets from the book and not in the book, and they did some research on their lives, their background, their poetry and styles. Were you all able to do something?
That's a great idea. I did not use it that way, but I did also notice that they have the poems listed like chronologically, so you can see what time period there were. So if you were like focusing on the Harlem Renaissance, you could pick those poets that were in that time period, and they even are from all over the world. So to have them experience Japanese poets to American poets, I just thought that was really a great resource for them. You know, if you wanted to extend that poetry lesson to more than just biographies, having them do a geography lesson on top of it would be a great idea as well. Were there any poems that stuck out to you that you liked the best?
Yeah, the first poem was How to Write a Poem, and it just sets the scene for writing poetry. And my students enjoyed that because it starts with grab a pen, paper, spunk. And in my class, the saying this year is add a little spice. So when they read that part, they said, Ms. Walton, the spunk, is that like spice? So it was really like that connection and that affirmation for them to see that it's, you can write a poem with all of the things that you already have, all the tools that you already have. I think of teachers as storytellers, and that's exactly what this book does. It's a collection of stories of people's experiences and their ideas and their beliefs. And I think that when students see a collection like that, it can inspire them to tell their story.
Absolutely. And as teachers, like we said, having that resource that pretty much covers everything that we need is priceless, because we spend so much time just researching. So just to have a text like this that's so rich is priceless.
What I really want my students to take away from reading this book is that they can write. Whether it's a poem, whether it's a journal entry, an essay, I want them to feel empowered that they can write anything and feel good about whatever they put on the paper.
Absolutely. I want my students to know that there is a poet inside of each and every one of us, and I want them to tap in to things that make them happy, that make them sad, things that they want to change, and know that their words have power and it can impact others.
I think that was the best part of using this book, was they were able to find those connections to what had been taught earlier in the year. And so I think if we were able to continue to use this as a resource for them to be able to feel more confident, to share their thoughts and feelings in a poem, and I think that's going to be the biggest gift that this book has given us. We really hope you enjoyed learning about Out of Wonder and how it can be used in your classroom.
The authors have done a beautiful job celebrating diverse poets from around the world.
We hope this book reminds you and your students of the magic of poetry and leads you to discover your own wonder.